Hey everyone, I wanted to take a few minutes to talk to you all about something that I get asked about more than anything else today. Inevitably, once people find out that I camp and travel in my minivan and hike and go on adventures by myself, it never fails that the topic of safety will get brought up. Whether it's questions about whether I ever feel scared, what do I personally do to stay safe, what kind of things concern me about solo travel, to often unsolicited but well-meaning advice about why I absolutely should not be setting out on my own and how it's just not safe. Well, I'm here today to tell you that I absolutely think that you can and should set out on solo adventures if you feel so inclined. I do acknowledge that there are some heightened risks inherent with solo travel, especially for solo females. So there may be a few things that you need to consider, or maybe a few extra steps that you need to take in order to feel safe doing so, but you absolutely can travel safely by yourself. And today I'm kind of going to go into a little bit about what I personally do to stay prepared and safe for most any situation, what's in my personal safety kit, which I highly recommend that everybody have, and also a few tips, tricks, things that I've kind of picked up along the way so far that I do to help me feel and stay safe. So I want to share that with you today, and hopefully you will find this information helpful. I'm Heather. Welcome to my channel, Heather's Hikes and Adventures, where I share content like this dealing with how to affordably and easily camp and travel or even live in your vehicle, as well as reviews on parks, campgrounds, hikes, kind of all the things related to travel like that and to solo travel. So I feel that this topic is right on brand with that. And if that seems like it's up your alley, you should definitely hit subscribe after this so that you don't miss any future content that you will also find helpful in your travels. I realize the subject of safety is highly subjective. It means something different to everybody, and everybody has their own kind of concerns, priorities, focuses, when it comes to dealing with safety and what it takes for them to feel safe. So I'm obviously going to focus on my own personal feelings and experiences around safety and what I do that makes me feel prepared and safe. But I do think that all of the stuff that I'm going to share with you today is all useful information for pretty much anybody, regardless of situation. And I am also, before we head into home base, since I'm between trips and it's disgusting outside right now, so I'm going to be showing you most of the stuff in my home base today. But before we head in, I do want to show you a few things that I keep in my van all the time, regardless of whether I'm out traveling or even just driving around town or taking the kids to and from school. These are mostly items that I pretty much will always have up front with me in my van, and then I'll take you inside and show you the rest of the stuff and kind of get into a little bit more of the tips and tricks aspect of safety. Oh, and before I get into showing you these things, I did want to stop and say that number one key over anything else, regardless of who you are, where you are, or what you're doing, is awareness. You always want to be aware and focused on your surroundings and any potential risks or things that you need to take into consideration, such as weather conditions, traffic, things in the road. You know, anything at all can potentially impact your safety if you are not being aware of your surroundings. So I always want to know what I could potentially encounter, what kind of concerns might I come across if I'm out hiking, what are going to be the weather conditions that day, are there any potential wildlife or trail risks that I'm going to need to consider in order to have a safe hike. You know, who are the people around me when I'm in a place? You know, what do they look like? All those types of things are just instant things that you pick up on if you are aware of your surroundings. And if you are, they will prevent most other instances of you needing to kind of go to that second or third line of defensive or reactive behavior, because a lot of times just being aware can ever eliminate a potential situation from occurring that you would need to react to. And the subject of awareness kind of goes hand in hand with also trusting your instincts and, trust your gut. That really is such an important thing. So often we, especially as women, have a tendency to kind of discount that little, alarm that goes off in the back of our head and, kind of dismiss it as, oh, I'm just being silly again, or, I've done this so many times. I know it's safe. Why do I feel concerned this time? Things like that. And it's so important to pay attention to that little inner voice in you. If something just does not feel right about a person, place, or thing, don't stop to question it or talk yourself out of feeling that way. Acknowledge that stress or fear response and react accordingly. Remove yourself from the situation. You can laugh at yourself or, think about how silly it was or, what was wrong with me or whatever after the fact, but you'll be safe. You never want to get into that, oh man, I should have just listened to my gut. Why didn't I knew there was something wrong this time. Like, why didn't I just pay attention to myself? It's always better to just trust your instinct and go with it. And then, like I said, you can question or, laugh at yourself about it later. But it really is important to learn how to listen to that inner voice and pay attention to it. Right, and now to show you some of those items I was telling you about that I keep up front with me all the time. I have my most frequently used chargers and cords so that I never have to dig for those. I also have things like Benadryl for allergic reactions, ibuprofen for headaches, anything that I might need while I'm traveling, if I get sick or hurt or anything like that. I also have an emergency whistle. I also keep a backup credit card up front just in case my wallet gets lost or stolen. I am not going to be stranded anywhere without any funds to get home. And then in my door over here, I have one of those nifty little survival tools that is kind of like a combo glass break, seatbelt cutter, knife, flashlight. So I always keep that within easy reach when I'm driving. And then also important is tire gauge. That way I never have to hunt for a gas station and I can always check the air in my tires. I keep pepper spray and a lantern up here. That way I have a light source at all times if I'm stuck on the side of the road or anything like that. It does recharge with either solar or USB, so that's very handy. And then on the back of my seat, I keep a headlamp so that I never have to dig around for a flashlight. If I am stranded after dark, I just instantly can reach right behind me and grab that. All right, let's head inside so you can see the rest of my tools. All right, I'm back and I'm inside out of the rain to show you the rest of my safety items. So first up is my nifty little Garmin InReach Mini. It is a personal satellite device that I can also use to send either pre-recorded or custom messages, and I can link it to my phone so I can actually use my phone to send messages when there's no cell service. There's also an SOS feature in case I ever get lost or have an emergency situation requiring rescue. So it does require a monthly subscription, but if you are out hiking or out by yourself and may potentially be without cell service or in need of rescue, highly, highly recommend. This is very useful, and there's a bunch of different plans at all different price ranges. So it is an affordable way to stay safe and in touch with people at all times. All right, next item, fire extinguisher. Now on my van tour, a couple of you commented that I did not have this in the best placement, and you are 100% correct. So I have since moved to keeping it in my side door cup holder so that I have instant access to it from inside or outside if I need it, instead of having to dig around when time is of the essence. So thank you for that tip. And that reminds me, if you guys ever do have any tips that you would also like to share, please feel free to drop them in the comments. I would love the feedback. And obviously I do listen, so thank you for that tip. I also keep a toolkit in my van with just the basics, you know, hammer, scissors, screwdrivers, things like that, in case I need to make any kind of emergency repairs on the go, or really just having scissors and a hammer is handy. I also, as you can see, have a set of jumper cables, a long cord. Highly recommend, but this is kind of my backup method. I do have a more preferred method that I'll show you here in just a moment. I also carry bear spray. I do a lot of hiking in black bear country, and while I'm not necessarily super concerned, I do think it's a good thing to have on hand if you are not hiking in groups, if you're out by yourself a lot in bear country, and also it is not only useful against bears. So just something to consider. Now for my kit, which again I highly recommend that everybody have. It doesn't have to be anything fancy or specially designed for it. Mine is a upcycled diaper bag that I used to use years and years ago when my boys were babies. So again, most of the time what you have on hand will be just fine to serve the purpose. And I like that this is waterproof. Okay, so I do, even though it's not always necessary in Florida, I do have like a little pack of those hot hands, like hand warmers, foot warmers, those kind of things, in case I am ever stranded without power on the side of the road for a while when it's cold, or if I just need to warm something up, you know, warm myself up in an emergency situation. This is kind of a last resort here, Fix-A-Flat. I say it's a last resort because I know it can damage your tire, and it's not an ideal fix or solution. It can also mess up your tire sensors. So my thought process in having this on hand is more of like, if I'm kind of, say, stranded on a little side mountain road somewhere and my tire's just not holding the air long enough to get back to civilization, you know, then I would consider using something like this as an emergency solution to get back to safety until I could address it properly. And by that token, I also keep a windshield repair kit on hand, just in case, you know, I'm ever out driving, get a big crack in the windshield that maybe I need to try and resolve at least temporarily until it can be addressed properly. You know, then this would come in handy. All right. I do keep, which I picked up from another video on YouTube from Bunny Plays Here, the tip of always having at least a pair of work gloves in my kit. So in case I need to work on a tire or, you know, lift the hood and it's still hot, you know, anything like that to kind of protect my hands. I just used this for the first time recently to air up all of my tires, and it worked wonderfully. It's got really good reviews too. I will link this as well as the other stuff I'm showing you today below. Bear with me, I'm having a bit of technical difficulties this week with time, so the links may not be available the second the video goes live, but by the end of the week, all of the links will be available in the description below, so you can check there if you are looking for anything specific. But this is a 12-volt air compressor, so it just plugs right into the 12-volt, you know, cigarette lighter plug in my car, and it's got a really long cord in the back here, and you just set the pressure the way you want it. It does PSI and, you know, the other measurements too. So you can set it how you want it, to whatever pressure, and hit go, and it will do. It's really fast. It supposedly can do a tire from completely flat to full in like 10 minutes or something, but hopefully I never have to test that. Just make sure you don't run it for too long without giving it a break in between, because you don't want it to overheat. But it does work really well. All right, and then last in here, as I mentioned already, when I showed you the jumper cables, this is kind of my preferred method to deal with that. And it's one of those personal battery boosters, so that I don't need to rely on anybody else to assist me if I find myself with a dead battery. It comes with the little cables, and then it is important to make sure you keep these charged, because they will eventually lose a charge just sitting there for a long time. But I've had this one for months and it's still at like 94%. So the cool thing about it is it does have a flashlight and also the SOS feature. And then you can also use it to charge your phone or other devices if you need to. So that comes in handy as well. And it's supposed to be good for several charges with your car. So definitely, I hope I don't need it, but it's a big piece of mind to know that I have that. So that is pretty much everything for my kit. I do keep a first aid kit underneath my dash up in front in the van, in the kind of like hidden compartment console area, so that if I ever need it inside the vehicle, I have all the basic first aid necessities. And then I also keep a travel version in my hiking backpack, so that I have a first aid kit with me at all times when I'm not in the vehicle too, if I'm like out on a hike or something. So obviously hope I don't ever need to use this either, but you know, it does come in handy to have simple things for first aid supplies, such as it's got like a thermal blanket, like one of those space blankets, you know, ointment, gauze, like a, you know, something to use for a tourniquet, disinfectant, you know, basic things like that. So definitely a good idea to have some type of first aid with you as well, especially when you're by yourself. And that pretty much covers all of the tools that I keep on hand to keep me safe. I also make sure that I have an active AAA membership, which is good for battery service. Depending on what state you're in, they can even replace your battery with a new one if needed. Lockout service if you lock your keys in your vehicle. And then of course, if you ever need a tow. So definitely recommend having some type of emergency road service, whether it's through your insurance or another company like AAA. The other thing I like about AAA is that you get a lot of discounts and perks aside from just the emergency roadside. So definitely something that you want to consider. I also think it's important to make sure that you follow up with regular maintenance on your vehicle. Before I headed out onto my really long road trip at the end of last year, where I was going to be covering several states and driving a really long distance for the very first time by myself, I did take it into my mechanic and have them give it a really good once over, kind of like you would do if you buy a new vehicle and just want them to thoroughly check it out to make sure everything appears in good working order. Just so that I kind of had that peace of mind, you know, knowing that yes, you know, situations can occur on the road, but I knew going into it that Tara was in pretty good shape before we got started. So I do recommend that too if you're going to be going for really long distances. You know, just getting it checked out, you know, the brakes, just the basics, so that you lessen your chances of having any kind of unexpected surprises like that on the road. And then just some other kind of general personal safety tips that I've picked up on that I really like to utilize, that may be things that you haven't considered before. If I'm booking a campsite, for instance, I never book as just one person, because I feel like there's no reason to put in writing ahead of time on the record anywhere that you're traveling by yourself, you know, regardless, male, female, whatever. There's just really no reason to advertise that you're going to be traveling alone. So I will always book a site as 2 people at least. That way, you know, it's not showing anywhere ahead of time that I'm going to be traveling or staying somewhere by myself. You know, with hacking and security, it's just kind of like a peace of mind thing for me to know that nobody's going to know before I show up to a place that I'm going to be staying there by myself. And on that note, regarding sharing your locations, there are scenarios where you always want to share your location and then never share your location. So let me explain. You always want to share your location, always, when you're going to be going somewhere by yourself with at least 1 to 2 trusted individuals. For instance, my parents always have my itinerary before I go somewhere. They know about when they can expect me to check in, when I should be at my next destination, when I should be home. You know, I give all of that information to them with specifics as far as like what campsite, if I have a booked campsite, you know, on this day I'll be here, on this day I'll be here, because you want somebody to know if you're missing. You don't want to just kind of disappear off grid, not let anybody know where you're going to be and when you're going to be back, because then if you end up getting injured or if something happens, it could be a really long time before anybody realizes. So it is definitely important to share your location in that regard. When I say you never want to share your location, what I'm referring to is publicly. You don't want to broadcast where you are at that moment or where you're going to be specifically, especially when you're traveling by yourself. I love to share where I've been. Obviously, that's one of the main reasons I've started this channel, so that I can share with you guys all of these amazing places. But I never share these places with you while I'm still there. And that's just a safety thing. You know, I don't want anybody popping up on me, even just showing places where you are and not explicitly saying it. If somebody's from that area, they may recognize that street or they may recognize that specific sign. So I always wait until I'm gone from a place before I share that with the general public. So if you're not, you know, that 1 or 2 trusted individuals that I'm giving my information to ahead of time, then, you know, I'm definitely going to share it with you guys, but it will be after I've left that place. And that's just one more added security you know, protocol that I put into place for myself as another peace of mind thing. And with that last tip, I think I have talked your ear off enough today. I'm sure there are things I'm missing or that are going to occur to me later that I forgot to mention. But in general, I think, you know, having a good safety kit, you know, sharing that information of where you're going to be, when you're going to be checking in, when you're going to be home, having that emergency road service, and having the tools that you would need, as well as that important base of having situational awareness of all of your surroundings and everything in them. You know, this is going to give you the foundation and the base you need to be able to kind of put your mind at ease and, you know, hit the road and get out there and start having these fun adventures by yourself without having to be so concerned about your safety, because you'll have the tools and resources and the preparation in place to be able to do that and just to be able to relax and enjoy yourself. So with that, I want to thank you as always for taking time out of your day to join me and watch my video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this in the future that will help you with your own travels and adventures. Again, thank you so much, and I will see you guys soon. Bye.